real estate agents. Welcome to the Weekly Closer. I'm your host, Jeff Underwood, along with my co-host, Joey Sampaga.
Yo.
Preacher man.
What's going on, man?
That's good. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. You know, this is the first time we're back in the studio for what, a couple months now?
We're back in the saddle.
Yes.
2 months or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I forgot. I almost forgot what today was.
I know.
Actually, I almost. Yeah. And my wife says, "Shouldn't you be somewhere?"
Let me check.
I'm like, okay. Hey guys, welcome back here in studio. And hey, we want to give a big shout out first and foremost to our sponsors, Fidelity National Home Warranty,
Yes.
and Security Title Agency. They're awesome. Show them some love.
Yep.
And we've got a great guest with us in the house. We've got Daniel Brown, CEO of Myriad at My Home Group. How's it going, Daniel?
It's going really well. Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome to the studio.
Yeah.
First one back. All the germs are gone. So.
Yeah. I had seen a meme during the lockdown where it was talking about the days of the week, and it was that day, this day, tomorrow, yesterday.
That's so true.
That is absolutely true. Absolutely. Well, why don't we start with why don't you share with the agents that are watching and listening how long you've been in the business, I guess, and then how did you actually get into real estate?
Yeah, so I got my real estate license in 2007. So I got licensed when the world was falling apart, much like it is now. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes, right? So there's very much similarities between 2007, 2008, and what we're seeing today.
Yeah.
And I got into real estate. I remember being a kid, and my grandfather actually was an agent with Century 21. And he had the gold jacket, and he worked.
I remember those.
Yeah, right. And he was an agent in Sun City, and I remember touring homes with him, and he would check on his listings and clean them up because Sun City was a lot of winter visitors, and so in the summertime he would be checking on those properties and things. And I had always really enjoyed spending time with my grandfather and going to those properties and kind of experiencing real estate. And then I grew up, and things take you away from that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I was in between jobs, and I was bartending at the time in Scottsdale, and a friend of mine had let me know that his family's team was expanding, and he knew that I was trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up, and asked me if I had any interest in joining his family's team. And remembering back to the days of my childhood and spending times with my grandfather, I said, absolutely, that sounds like a lot of fun. And then, of course, the market just tanked.
Got in at the wrong time.
Right.
But you learned a lot, probably. So
I did, yeah. So, they were in a fortunate position to get REO properties. And I, nobody had any idea what REOs were going to be, what that was going to turn into. So they gave me the opportunity to work with that and kind of learn. And I just took it and ran with it. And it was really trial by fire. I became a veteran in the industry extremely fast because I was experiencing 150 transactions in a year.
Wow. And
analyzing homes all across the valley. I'm a native to Phoenix, and I lived a very sheltered, middle class, upper middle class white kid life, and had no idea that some of these neighborhoods in Phoenix even existed. And so I got a lot of exposure to the valley and became very efficient at analyzing homes in any neighborhood in Phoenix.
Yeah.
And just built this system from the ground up on how to manage, a portfolio of listings and how to pay the utilities, creating Excel spreadsheets, which is not one of my strong suits, to pay utilities and file for reimbursement, help the tenants that were in these homes get cash for keys. And not only did I learn a lot about how to value a home and how to do real estate, I also learned how to treat people and how not to treat people, because I saw a lot of families and individuals, whether they were owners or tenants, that were just in terrible situations and completely taken advantage of, either by their landlord or their agent or the lender that said they could afford these homes when they really couldn't. Mm-hmm. So I had vowed to myself going through that process that I will never treat people like this.
Yeah. No, totally. And you see a big difference between, I know that crazy times back in 07, 08, 09, and crazy times 2020 so far, I guess, right? But I guess the major difference is the supply, right?
Yeah.
It's out there. I mean, 07, 08, 09, we started seeing a lot of the foreclosures hitting, right, the REO properties. And now we see
it's the complete
very
opposite.
few.
Yeah. I
Very
mean,
few.
at the peak of when the housing market was at its worst, we had over 60,000 properties on the market. And now when I look at the numbers in the areas of the valley that matter, the Cromford report and the MLS, if you just look at active homes, it'll give you a number. But if you
Right.
take out Casa Grande and Waddell and Wickenburg and those areas that people absolutely live there, but for what I consider the greater Phoenix area, we're like in between 10 and 11,000 homes.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's nuts, and buyer demand is way up. So it's the complete opposite of what we faced in 07, 08.
Well, I think everybody's moving to Casa Grande now.
Because
They can work from home, and they don't want to be around people.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of pundits out there who say that that's going to be a shift in the marketplace where millennials, the younger generation, aren't going to necessarily want to be in the urban environments and want to go to the suburbs where they have more space.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we were wanting, millennials, I'm not a millennial, but millennials wanted to move all urban and be close to coffee shops. And now it's like, okay, I need an acre.
It changed quick, didn't it?
It did.
Well, having to work from home and be stuck in a 600 square foot, apartment or condo, it's not fun versus if you could have a house that's 1,800 square feet, 2,000 plus. Yeah,
I was reading an article about online searches, and they were saying that, and I can't remember who it was, Redfin or somebody, but anyway, they were saying that the number of searches for rural and small communities has skyrocketed.
Wow.
And the number of searches for urban has gone down.
Sure.
So,
I believe
so you
it.
kind of see that a little bit of migration. And I'm sure a lot of that, though, is from, they mentioned New York City, obviously, right? People are trying to find property outside of that area now. So I'm sure people leaving New York and potentially LA and all that probably skews that a little bit. But that's a big thing.
I think it'll be short-lived, though. Something similar happened after 9/11, where people were leaving New York City, but then Americans have this uncanny ability to have a very short memory and fall back into old habits. So you may have older individuals that are in the city moving out to the suburbs, but that'll just make way for another generation to kind of fill the void, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think they were saying that, an 84% drop in sales in New York last month. Crazy, crazy. All right, enough about other people, I guess. Right? Other places. So what are you guys doing now then? I mean, in the environment that we're in, right, in the market that we're in, what are you doing, I guess, to help clients navigate this stuff?
So we're just trying to be a really trusted resource. There's a lot of noise out there, a lot of headlines, and a lot of bad information. And so we really took this opportunity to really spotlight our business and what we're focusing on and what we're doing. And we made a commitment and a shift to basically reach out to every single person within our database, start putting out video content surrounding the coronavirus, surrounding the housing market, and just putting out the facts and what we interpreting it and what we think that's going to mean going forward, and really trying to ease people's fears and be a resource that they could rely on for trusted information.
So did you do that with mostly phone calls, some emails too, or just mostly phone call?
It was a mixture of phone calls. So we, made a commitment to hit all of we've got our CRM really dialed in to, VIPs, A clients, B clients, and C clients. And so we made a commitment to hit all of our VIPs, our A clients, and our B clients during the COVID lockdown. And, we were able to accomplish that through phone calls. And then we also really pivoted our e-newsletter and the content that we were generating around trusted resources specific to Phoenix and Arizona on what's happening in the marketplace, as well as spotlighting other local small businesses and how they were pivoting during this time and how people could support them. So, advertising restaurants that were still open and doing delivery. And, I've got a really close friend who's a caterer, and, his business just completely shut down during all of this. And so he had to pivot and things that he was doing creative to bring in business. So we kind of just really pulled a 180 on what we were doing and really just tried to provide value.
how was the reception of that? I mean, how did people? Do you feel like you're going to go back to some of the online type stuff right away, or do you feel like the reconnecting via phone has made a massive difference?
It's made a huge difference in actually chatting with people and reconnecting with them, and it made me actually pivot our business. We fell into a trap, and I think it's easy for a lot of people to do in real estate. You know, they say if you want to make money in real estate, you create a product or a service that realtors are going to buy. And so a lot of us fall down this rabbit hole of chasing the shiny object. Like, what's the new marketing thing that's going to revolutionize my business?
There, done
right?
that.
TikTok.
Yeah. and a lot of that's.
Oh wait, I have to post one real quick.
I think a lot of that's centered around, pay-per-click marketing. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of companies out there that you pay for these Google leads that register on your website, and then you spend all this time and money trying to chase these leads. And the conversion rate, if you're good, is probably somewhere around 2 or 3%.
Exactly.
And if you're bad, you're hovering around 1% or less than that. And that's a really bad conversion rate, and it gets really expensive because now you're paying for virtual assistants because it's all about speed to lead, right?
Yeah.
And you got to contact these people within 5 seconds. And so it's just this creating these giant systems around such a low conversion rate when you've got this amazing database of people who already know you, have already worked with you, and already like and trust you. And so if you spent a fraction of the money and time that you spend chasing PPC on those people, you could create a business, I think, that can weather any downturn and any storm. In every business, regardless of what you're in, it is way more expensive to get a new client than it is to retain and keep an old client.
Yeah. Well, and these systems a lot of times get changed, I mean, when people were doing awesome with Google pay-per-click, and all that, and then Google changed the algorithms, right? And then it went to zero, and they just put all that time and effort into it, and now it's gone. But anyway.
Yeah.
So why don't you share a little bit about your model with your team? Because that was kind of intriguing when we were talking earlier. Go ahead and share that with the agents.
Yeah, so your traditional team model is you got your team lead or the rainmaker, right? And then you've got maybe an admin person that's your transaction coordinator, and then you've got all these agents below you that are set up on some sort of split, whether it's 50-50, 60-40, it doesn't matter. And what I discovered, and even I was on that split as a buyer's agent at one time, you end up running your own business or having these agents run their own business within yours. And you lose control, right? And then there's also no sense of camaraderie. So there's internal competition. A big thing is going on vacation or trying to take a weekend off or having some downtime. The team I was on, when you did that, I had to pay somebody who was on my team to cover my business. Or if they were showing a client and they got them under contract, I had to give them a percentage of the commission. And in my opinion, that's not a team. You're not in it together.
Yeah.
And so, when I was creating my own team, I wanted to throw that system up on its head. And so I created a model where I'm the team lead, but everybody on my team is paid a salary. And they're paid a competitive salary versus what, traditional agents make on their own. And so they get a salary. I pay mileage reimbursement. I have a 401k set up. I pay for all of their dues and training and licensing as well. And, so it really takes a lot of, I think it's better for the clients because it takes a lot of the money motivation out of it. And we talk to our clients about that model where if you're working with an agent who is solely reliant on commissions, where's their motivation? Are they worried about their next paycheck in order to take care of their family, which is a true worry and something that somebody should be absolutely concerned about. But if the best move for you is to cancel that contract, but that agent is worried about where their next check is going to come from.
They already bought the new car.
Yeah.
No, I'm just
right? But are they going to advise you properly if they have that in the back of their head? Like, I've got to buy groceries, I got to make a car payment, I got to pay my mortgage, I got to do those things.
Yeah.
So I removed all of that, all those obstacles. And so my guys are on a salary. I've got 2 showing agents, and they're in charge of showing our buyer clients. They back each other up if they're ever on vacation, which allows them to genuinely unplug. So they aren't answering phone calls. They aren't answering their emails. My team is covering that for them. And then when the team does well and we hit certain goals, then I do profit sharing. So the company has to be profitable, And once we hit certain metrics, that profit sharing kicks in, and everybody, based on their individual metrics, if they've met that, will get a piece of the profit.
Oh, okay. How long have you been doing this model?
So we've been doing this model for 3 years. When I first started my team, the only model I knew was the model that everybody else uses.
Right.
And it just it also had a revolving door. So you've got buyer's agents, and they're like, well, I'm paying you this split, and now I'm bringing in enough business on my own. I don't need you anymore. See you later. And you've already spent all that time and effort and money training those people, and then they go off on their own. I think that it's a certain mindset to be commission only. And, you have this idea of being an HGTV star or your name up in lights or making hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? If you go to a salary only model, it really opens the door to the people you hire, because I think there are more individuals in this world that want security and want the idea of a steady paycheck versus the potential of making hundreds of thousands of dollars in real estate, which let's be honest, most agents do not make hundreds of thousands of dollars in this industry. And most agents will only last 2 years, right? And then they don't renew their license anymore because it's really, really hard. And so when I shifted to this model, resumes started coming in from people who never even considered real estate as an option. And these people have a high passion for client care and providing a high level of service and doing a good job. And you mix in with that the freedoms that come with real estate. Real estate's not a 9-to-5 job. So I still allow people to manage their own schedules. If you're working the weekend, then take flex days during the week. But the work has to get done. So it's kind of a mixture of, a normal corporate kind of 9-to-5 job with also the perks and benefits that come along with being in real estate.
Are they all in the office, or?
So we have an office, and it's our office only.
Okay.
And, right now, it's not a requirement that anybody comes into the office. And it's not a requirement that anyone comes into the office ever, but we've created a culture where people want to be together. And so, 9 times out of 10, people come into the office when they're not with clients. So, it's one of those things where it's not a set rule. We've got a daily meeting that we check in every day at 9 or 9:30 in the morning. But that can be, you can check in over the phone, you can check in now through Zoom. The only time that we make it a requirement that you do come to the office is our 9:30 meeting on Mondays is our big meeting where we spend some time, and then we have a sales meeting after for some additional training and things. So that is mandatory to come into the office. But outside of that, you set your schedule. I'm not a babysitter, and I tell all of my guys that I trust you until you give me a reason not to. And when I don't trust you, you're gone. So
what's the team made up of?
So our team model is, I've got myself at the team lead. I've got a transaction coordinator. I've got a marketing manager. She's the only one that's not licensed, but she's in charge of all of our marketing. 2 showing agents and a listing manager. So, and I handle all of our listings for the most part. The listing manager backs me up, handles kind of the day-to-day stuff. And then I'm very involved. So our showing agents, I do honor calls. So I call all of the active buyers that they're working with. I'm very particular, so I break my days into who I'm calling. So every Thursday are honor calls. I call all of our buyers that our showing agents are working with to check in to make sure that they're getting the level of service that I expect and that they expect, and that their expectations are being met by our team. I check in with all of our active listings and all of our clients who are under contract, whether they're a listing or a buyer, on Tuesdays. And I just go down the list and call all of them. And so what ends up happening with this model is that I'm involved, and these people see my face, they know my voice, they understand that it's my team. So if I do have somebody leave, the hope is that they don't take all those people with them, that I retain a majority of that. And so when a traditional agent or team lead loses a buyer's agent, that buyer has created those relationships, or buyer agent has created those relationships. Usually those people, if they do it right, go with them.
Right.
So
interesting. Okay.
So is the plan to grow the team even more, or are you at a pretty comfortable level, or what?
Well, we're pretty comfortable right now. I have a general rule of thumb with salaries is that for every position that you have, not including yourself, you should be closing about 3 deals a month. So right now we're, because there was that little bit of pullback, we're a little bit heavy on the staffing side. So we need to get our numbers up.
Yeah.
But in general, I think I have the bandwidth to really manage a team comfortably of somewhere around 12 to 15 people probably. So I've got a flow chart in my office. It's hung up on my wall of what my ideal team looks like, with me at the top, my COO, and then kind of breaks it down from there of who is doing what and what those roles are.
Got it. Okay. Well, and one of the reasons I was asking is that I didn't know if you wanted to share how somebody could contact you if they were interested in finding out more or not.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can check us out on our website. It's myriadaz.com. All of our contact info is out there, and because our model is relatively unique, we are in the process of setting up a system where if somebody wants to buy our model, we will sell them the individual things that we've created, because this isn't unique in the business world. We kind of talked about this earlier, but it is unique in the real estate world.
Yeah.
You've got to have processes set up when you're running a business like this. And we have an operation handbook for our business, and we've got the job roles all spelled out, and we have the flow chart, and we've created all of these systems around running a small business, because that's truly what you're doing now, is running a small business, because now you've got W-2 people instead of 1099.
Yeah.
And you're taking complete control of that. So we have all those systems kind of put together, and we're in the process right now, because I've had a lot of people ask me about it. We're in the process of creating what we're calling Myriad Mentors, where we will sell these packages, and we'll just everything we've created, so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and you can basically copy what we've done.
Got it.
Nice.
And that's myriad.com. Right?
Az.com.
Oh, AZ.
Yep. Myriadaz.com.
myriadaz.com.
Correct.
Got it.
Yep.
Sweet. Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Absolutely.
You mentioned too, before we got started, you kind of have this sell to buy strategy, or what? So, and I'm assuming, well, I'm not going to assume anything, I guess, but the market that we're in right now, obviously you're probably getting a lot of questions of, well, if I sell, what am I going to buy? But how do you guys work with that? Like, what's your strategy, I guess?
Yeah, what ended up happening with this team model was kind of a happy accident, that we uniquely set ourselves up to really be able to help people who need to sell in order to buy because of our team makeup. I don't handle any of our buyer clients, showing them homes. I'm not out in the field. I'm exclusively working on our listings. But because of the model and the time that frees up, I'm still paying attention to what's happening to our buyer clients, right? And working with them from a 30,000 feet level. And so when you're helping somebody sell in order to buy, kind of the way that we start is go out with our showing agent. Start looking at homes now, with the understanding that in this market, it's an aggressive seller's market.
Yeah.
That most sellers probably wouldn't accept an offer from you contingent on the sale of your home without it even being listed. You're the worst possible buyer in the market right now. But if you start seeing things that you like and you would sell your house for, that is a good sign. And if you see more than one, that's an even better sign, and means that it's probably a good time to go ahead and start this process. And so we then get everything ready to list like you normally would, and get them on the market. All the while, we always tell our client, don't be afraid to submit offers. The worst thing that a seller will tell you is no, and then you're just in the same position that you're in now. You could write a letter and really strike a chord with the seller, and they could accept your offer contingent on your selling and you're not listed yet. But understand that 9 times out of 10 they won't.
Yeah.
And then once we list their home for sale, the question I always get from the sellers is, well, what if I list and there isn't a home out there that I'm really interested in yet? Well, that's where we make arrangements. Because it is a seller's market, you're in complete control typically over this transaction.
Yep.
And we make arrangements to do a leaseback. A lot of agents are really terrified of doing leasebacks for whatever reason, and I think they're fantastic, where you negotiate, 60 days tends to be pretty standard with most lenders for the seller to lease their own home back from the buyer. You set up your seller in advance, letting them know that their monthly payments probably going to go up because the buyer of their home is going to have a higher mortgage than what you had. And then you've got the 30 days that you're under contract plus another 30 days so you've got a total of 60 days there to find your next house, which is that's a fairly long time if you're aggressively looking for homes, putting in offers. So knock on wood, year to date, we've never had anyone who hasn't found their next home during that time frame. And then we take it one step further, and we even make arrangements for a 7-day post-possession, because I think trying to do dual closings on the same day is a nightmare.
Yeah, it's always hard.
Yeah, because now your stuff's sitting on a moving truck and you're technically homeless for a couple hours while you wait for one deal to close and then wait for the next one to close. So I do at least a 7-day post-possession to allow the client to move, get all their stuff out. I sell it to the buyer's agent as, now our client can clean, leave the house in good condition for your client, and then move out. And we always put in there, that our client has the right to shorten these terms based on what they find.
Yeah.
And most of the buyers and the buyer's agents that we work with, once we explain to them and educate them on the process, are totally fine with it, especially in this market because it's such a seller's market.
Yeah.
And a very small thing that I don't know if a lot of agents do is try and keep both deals at the same title company.
Yeah.
Because it makes it so much easier that you're not having to worry about wire cutoff times. It makes it easier on your client because they're not having to fill out the same documentation multiple times, and you're just dealing with one person. And so trying to keep it sounds small, but sometimes the smallest things make the biggest difference. And so having both deals at the same title company makes a huge difference.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
How long have you been working on that system, I guess?
I think that we've been specializing in helping people sell in order to buy probably over the last 2.5 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so we've just been able to, hone in on those tactics over time.
Got it.
Well, during these, this is a question that probably most agents would want to know is when you're working with the listing, during COVID-19, are you doing anything special?
Yeah, we were, but what we found was that it wasn't that big of a deal to most people. We didn't have a lot of pushback. Early on we went and we got a ton of Clorox wipes, hand sanitizer, booties.
Where'd you get them? Because I can't find any.
Well, you can't find it. Yeah. This was like in February before like everything melted down. I was like a lot of people during this, where in the early days it's like, oh, the flu's worse than this. We're totally overreacting and it's not a big deal. And then I'll tell you what.
A week later, you're running around trying to find toilet paper?
Well, I listened to a Joe. My wife was like, this is going to be bad. This is going to be bad. I was like, nah, you're overreacting. Yeah. It's not that big of a deal. And then I listened to a Joe Rogan podcast where I interviewed a scientist, and I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a nightmare. Like, we need to prep.
I think I saw that one too.
Yeah, we need to prep. And so we started even my team was like, I think you're being a little bit. I was like, nope, this is going to be real bad. Like, we need to get out there. We need to get ahead of this. So, we got stuff in advance. And then for showings, we don't allow overlapping appointments through showing time. I'm sure everybody uses showing time.
Yep.
We were using the COVID form up front. And, we let all of our sellers know that if you're living in the home, open up all the doors, turn on all the lights, make it so that those people don't have to touch as many surfaces.
Yeah.
But then when you get home, wipe stuff down.
Yeah.
Protect yourself. And, we ask people to wear masks inside homes, not to show with children because kids have a tendency to touch everything if possible. And, we didn't really have any pushback outside of that. On the buy side, we've implemented a rule where we don't allow buyers to ride in our car anymore, which kind of stinks because that's really when you can build a strong relationship with people. But we haven't had any pushback from any buyer clients, even out of state. part of our services, we'll pick you up at the airport if you want. If you're just doing a turnaround trip where you fly in and then fly out, we would pick you up at your hotel, whatever. Now it's like, I'm sorry, for your protection as well as ours, we're not going to do that. You need to get a rental car and kind of follow us around. If we're showing condos, if it's small, we don't go inside with them. We'll open the door and let the client kind of walk around. We're not necessarily as close following them room by room as we once were. So we're trying to, follow proper social distancing and that kind of thing. So it's, definitely been a transition, but not as big of a transition as I thought. I mean, I thought virtual tours would become this big thing, but what I found is people want to see stuff in person. They want to, see it, touch it, smell it, and that's really important. You can have the best virtual tour in the world, but that will not overcome
the smell.
I mean,
the virtual smell.
Each house has its own distinct funk.
That's true. That's true.
Some you walk in and you walk right back out.
Oh yeah.
I know some agents, they have this form that they actually have the buyer's agent and the buyer sign, and then take a picture of it and send it, and then they would allow them in. So. Yeah,
that was a form that it still exists. A COVID form where you're basically signing that you're not sick. Prior to seeing that home, and we've implemented that for our sellers that want that, and we have those conversations up front. If a buyer and a buyer's agent is not able to fill this out, will you still allow what's your comfort level? And that's really what it comes down to, is just being honest with your client and asking them what their comfort level is. And we've got multiple extremes. We've got clients who are like, oh, it's fine, I don't really mind. And then we have a client that wants 12 hours notice. They're only allowing showings from 3 to 6 because they work from home. And, you just make do.
Yep.
You just make do.
Yeah. I think I'm going to invent a door jam that really sprays you as you walk through. I was thinking of those metal detectors, right? What if when you open the door and you start to walk through, it just sprayed Lysol all over?
Well, we kind of have misters, right?
I saw in Asia where they were opening schools, and the kids, they would do that. They'd had to Purell their hands, and then they spray, and then it was like going through a car wash before they could enter the school.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Had to take off their shoes. Yeah.
Wow. I bet a lot of people are going to homeschool now too.
Yeah.
I don't know. That might be crazy.
Yeah, they want their kids to go to school now.
Yeah, I don't have kids yet, and I have a ton of respect for parents who all of a sudden are thrust into working from home, having to teach their kids, entertain their kids for 15 hours a day, and balance all of that stuff. It's got to be tough.
Teachers are going to get raises pretty soon.
They deserve it for sure. If anything, this pandemic has really spotlighted a lot of inefficiencies within our system for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right, Daniel, any other things you want to share before we get into the next segment? Anything that you had on your mind before you got here?
I would say for agents listening that the most important thing that you can do is have a good CRM system in place. I think one of the questions you were going to ask is, what is one of your favorite productivity tools?
And you can answer it now.
Well, and having a CRM is crucial. I think a lot of agents leave a ton of money on the table because they're always chasing, like I said, that new marketing tactic or chasing those PPC leads, when you've got a database of awesome people that can refer you business and do repeat business with you. And if you've been in business for a period of time, you start to see that turnover where you start helping people, for their second time. And that's usually multiple deals where you start selling in order to buy. You're helping first-time home buyer. I got my real estate license I'm 38, so I was in my early 30s. So I helped a ton of first-time home buyers because that was my network. And now those people are all in their mid to late 30s and growing families, and now they're selling in order to buy. So over time, my average price point has gone up. The number of transactions I've done has gone up because you're catering to your clients. And I'd much rather spend $2,000 a month on my database than $2,000 a month on 50 internet leads. It just, you feel good when you send clients things on their birthdays or send them little treats when something special happens in their life. And when the best marketing, you don't even really pay for when you send a client a gift and it touches them, and then all of a sudden they tag you, tag your company, post it to their social media account, and then all of a sudden their entire network sees it. That marketing is so much better than any PPC ad that you can run on Google or Facebook.
Yes, because it's personal too. Right?
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
And you're growing from within, from the inside out. So no, that's awesome.
So what CRM do you use?
We use a system called Copper, and we use the G Suite platform for everything. So everything's stored in our Google Drive, and we use Gmail as our email.
Copper.
And so Copper runs off of the G Suite platform, so everything's really integrated nicely.
Is that real estate specific or?
We made it real estate specific.
Okay.
It wasn't, and it's very cost effective as well as a CRM. So it's not terribly expensive like some of the bigger ones that you run.
That's
and
awesome.
I had my TC. She spent several weeks investigating, learning about the different CRM systems because there's a ton of them out there.
Yep.
And she found this one, and it was just so intuitive, so easy for us to use as a team. Everybody has access. Again, our team model is that we're all in this together working for the benefit of our clients. So I don't want to hide any of the people in the CRM from my team. I want them to see everybody that's in there so that if somebody calls in, they can make notes and then everybody can see it. So it was really, really conducive to our model.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Nice. Are you ready?
Yeah.
To get in the ring?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's do it.
Here we go. What do you think the reason is that many agents are not successful today?
I think that they have a lack of discipline and a lack of consistency. When you get into real estate, you have nobody telling you what to do and really giving you any sort of instruction. And there's just so many different ways that you can attack it. You can be extremely successful doing open houses. You can be extremely successful doing, Zillow. You can be all these different things. And you end up spreading yourself really thin because you're not quite sure what to focus on. So I think you need to start with a plan, get a mentor or a coach, and do it. Do the work. You get into real estate and it is hard. If you don't do the work, you're going to run out of your parents can only buy so many homes from you, so you need to get out there and find clients and so you got to put in the time and you got to be consistent with what you're doing.
All right. Best advice anyone's ever given you?
The best advice anyone's ever given me is kind of a combo. Early on, Gary Vaynerchuk, who I'm sure everybody is familiar with, was talking about growing teams and growing businesses, and said that if you can find somebody to do what you're doing at 80% of what you can do it at, that's probably good enough, and move on. And so I really kind of took that, if somebody can do what I can do at 80%, that's probably good enough. And then a piggyback off that delegate everything that you possibly can except for the conversations. You don't want to be an absentee owner. You want to be involved with your clients, but delegate the admin stuff, delegate your P&Ls, delegate the lead conversions, delegate all of that stuff except for the high level conversations.
Makes sense.
All right. Do you have a favorite mobile app?
MyFitnessPal. I'm big into working out, and so I track my food. I work with, again, I'm big into coaches, so I work with the nutritionist who sends me my my macros, my protein, fat, and carbs. And so
you doing keto or anything? Or?
Modified. I'm super active, so I do need carbs.
Okay.
Yeah,
that makes
so
it different.
It's a modified version of that. But yeah, I'm in MyFitnessPal multiple times a day, logging my food and making sure that I'm sticking to my numbers.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
How about a book recommendation?
Book recommendation, I'm a big fan of Darren Hardy.
Okay.
And he's got two. The Compound Effect is about doing
one.
small things every day, and over time you'll see huge changes within your business and within your life. And then he wrote The Entrepreneur's Roller Coaster, and I think that it's a fantastic book for anybody who's either in small business already or running a small business, or someone who's thinking about starting a small business, because it breaks it down for you and tells you that it is not all glamour.
Okay. Got it.
Entrepreneur roller coaster.
Roller coaster, yeah.
All right. And we'll have you draw one final question.
All right.
This is beautiful. What is that, velvet?
What did you want to be growing up? I actually wanted to be a marine biologist.
Where'd you live?
Here. I grew up in Phoenix. Yeah.
That's right. You said you're
Yeah, but I remember when I was a kid, I went to America West Arena on a field trip, and Jacques Cousteau gave a presentation, and from that moment on, I had dreams of being a marine biologist. Got certified in scuba diving when I was in high school. Went scuba diving a lot.
San Diego area?
Yeah, Catalina Island, San
Catalina,
Diego. I've been fortunate enough to go scuba diving in Hawaii, Bali, Florida.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so multiple places. It's I love the ocean. It's the closest to being on another world, because you are completely out of your element and you have to be aware of what's happening 360 degrees, up, down, all around. And you realize how tiny and insignificant you are.
Yeah. I used to live in Monterey Bay.
Okay.
And one of my high school classes was marine biology. And we would just walk out to the beach and
sit
check
there.
out stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Get some sun.
Get some sun. No, it's too cold, but it was all right.
Yeah. The water in California is really cold.
Do you have a place that you want to dive that you haven't done yet?
If I could go back, I would love to do the Great Barrier Reef before it started. It's kind of a mess right now, and the bleaching, and it's fallen. It's not what it once was. If I could rewind time, 10, 15 years, I definitely would make an effort to get to the Great Barrier Reef before it started kind of disappearing.
Got it. All right. Somebody told me they went to off the coast of Belize. Is that where the blue hole thing is?
Yeah.
I think. And he was saying how when you get down so far, it's like pitch black, right? So he's like touching the side of the wall, and I'm like, nah. I don't know if I would want to do that.
My dad scuba dived at night and was telling me about it, and I don't think I have the balls to scuba dive at night.
So it has a flashlight, I'm sure.
But it's very narrow focus, and so these fish are just like a monster swimming right in front of you. That
would be scary.
That would be
just terrifying.
Oh gosh. Well, Daniel, thanks so much for joining us today.
Great
information.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hopefully some agents get some good nuggets out of this one. So appreciate it, man.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. It was a lot of fun, and if I can be of any help to anybody, definitely let me know.
Absolutely. Awesome. All right, agents. Hey, until next time, we will see you later.
Adios.
Bye.
Good job.
All right, great job.